Hey gang, Professor Feeser here, and tomorrow I'm teaching a large organization about GitHub Actions. And one of the things they asked for me to cover specifically was something on Selenium testing. So in today's video, I want to talk about Selenium tests with JavaScript, but really what you're going to take away from this lesson is more how to run GitHub Actions with Selenium. You can use any language that you want. Before we dive into a discussion of how this is set up, we're going to talk about inputs, so GitHub Action inputs, and we're also going to talk about GitHub Action matrix strategies. So that's a way to run multiple jobs in parallel with slightly different inputs. And the reason we got to cover that is my solution, Selenium solution, uses both of those. So let's dive in with the discussion and then we'll get to the demonstration. Gang, let's talk about inputs. In this case, multiple choice inputs, but the discussion here is at runtime. We want the user to have to make a choice, tell us how the solution is going to run. And since Selenium is really testing browser-based operations, maybe the question that we have is, what browser are we testing in? Is it, pick one, Chrome, Firefox, Edge? And you can see in green under the on workflow dispatch, there's inputs, there's browser. Now, browser is the variable that we're defining. That could ultimately be whatever you wanted, but it's a choice. That means there's going to be a drop-down menu. It's required. You have to pick one at runtime. And the option there, Chrome, Firefox, Edge, is ultimately the choice that they can make. Now, the remaining things in green, GitHub Events Inputs Browser, is how we are calling that later on. You can see in the Jobs section, I use it to describe the full name. You can see it in the image. I'm using it to select the correct image. And finally, you can see it passed as an environmental variable, which is going to affect the actual browser that's chosen to test with. Hey gang, let's talk about the matrix strategy. This is a way to run multiple jobs in parallel, but with slightly different settings. So we write one job, and then we describe the strategy matrix. Here you can see there's a version 10, 12, and 14, and there's an OS, Ubuntu latest, and Windows latest. You're going to get all combinations of those values created, and then a job run for each. So you can see there's 6 different jobs that are actually going to be created. Version 10, version 10, version 12, version 12, version 14, version 14, one with Ubuntu latest and one with Windows latest. A total of 6 jobs that are going to run at the same time. Gang, let's look at a matrix strategy example. So this is taken from the workflow that we're about to look at. And this is kept pretty straightforward. We don't need to mix multiple lists together. It's just one list. Chrome, Firefox, Edge. Right? We just want all 3 of those jobs to run at the same time. Once again, you can see I'm using that to describe the job name. Selenium testing matrix.browser is how we access Chrome, Firefox, Edge. Again, the name of the image that needs to be used. We need 3 different images. Those are coming from Docker Hub, by the way. And then finally, the browser environmental variable, which selects the browser to test with, is down there in step 4. Hey gang, here I am at github.com, RZFeeser, GitHub Actions, Selenium, JavaScript. So this is my repository, and there's just 3 files you have to focus on. One is test.mjs. This is what we want GitHub to execute for us. The other 2 are the GitHub Actions. There's 2 actions, 2 workflows, and they're in .github/workflows because they have to be. That's a requirement for GitHub Actions. If we look at test.mjs, Whether you know JavaScript or not, no big deal. There's only a few sections worth looking at anyways, and anybody can understand them. Up at the top, we want to connect to duckduckgo.com. We want to find the search box, and we want to put in a search term and then hit the enter key. We want to take a screenshot when we're done, and we want to save it out to the screenshots folder. We also, the search terms themselves are the actual tests, the Selenium tests. So what we want to do is search for RZFeeser and make sure that DuckDuckGo returns an RZFeeser.com. We want to search for code with Feeser and make sure we get back a code with Feeser. We want to see search for Alta3 research and get back an alta3.com. A Mozilla, get back a Mozilla.org, a GitHub, get back a github.com, and a GitLab, get back a gitlab.com. This is simple tests, right? We're just performing DuckDuckGo searches. But you make this test whatever you want. I don't know what you're looking to test with Selenium. What I do know is the variable you're probably interested in primarily would be the browser flavor. You know, am I testing this in Edge, in Chrome, in Firefox, in all three? Well, that's where GitHub Actions is really going to help us out. Let's get out of here. Let's go back and click into .github workflows. So there's two files here. We can look at both of them. The first one we're going to look at is test-single-browser. And there's not much to either of these. Both are very similar. It's just how we're telling the job to run. In this one, we're selecting a single browser, either Chrome or Firefox or Edge. And that's done by the user at runtime. When they click run the job, that's what workflow dispatch means. When they say, I want to click a button to run the job, that's the trigger. They will be prompted with one of these three choices. The job itself is going to be named after Chrome, Firefox, or Edge. We really need that so that we trigger the correct service to get used. We want to select the Selenium service that supports one of those browsers. This is the name of an image that can be found out on Docker Hub. The first thing we're going to do is copy our code into our workspace. We're going to set it up with Node.js. That's what that does. We're going to install dependencies. This is what actually executes our test file. So test.mjs will be triggered by that command. And that time that script runs, this is the one we just looked at, its runtime environment will be affected by, browser, the environmental variable being pointed to either Chrome, Firefox, or Edge, which will have even more ramifications on how the script runs. That's going to perform those tests. We're left with all those screenshots, so we want to zip them up and make them available. That's what this bottom piece does. So let's go ahead and run this, and then we'll look at the other one. To run it, we just click on Actions, and clicking then on Single Job, Run Workflow. We'll run it with Firefox, Run Workflow. This takes about 1.5 minutes to execute. Just be patient. The HTML will tell the page to refresh, I think about every 30 seconds. There it is. You don't have to hit refresh. Now you can go further if you're curious. You can dig into, what the job is actually doing. I'm just going to hang though, in about another 60 seconds, it will be done. There we go. It just wrapped up. And if I hit refresh, you'll see it also provided an artifact. The artifact is the zipped up screenshot. So you can download those. They do come down in a zipped up state. And look at that, they opened right up for me. There's the Alta 3 research code with Feeser, GitHub, Mozilla, RZFeeser. You can see very much. We searched for an RZFeeser. There I am right up at the top, Russell Zachary Feeser in the assumedly FireFox browser. Very cool. All the other searches are there as well. So there was another one, another GitHub workflow. If we go back to, I'm going to go back to the root, and then I'll dig into the GitHub workflows folder. There is the test-all-browsers. And this uses the matrix strategy. We talked about this a little bit ago, where we have a Chrome, Firefox, and Edge. We want a single job to run, and we want that job to run 3 different ways in parallel. In this case, just Chrome, Firefox, and Edge are going to be the 3 jobs that are created, and the context, that's what that's called, the dollars, squigglies, is called a context. That will be filled in, evaluated with our matrix plugins. So matrix browser is that matrix browser right there. The fast fail false is worth mentioning as well. That means if, say, the Firefox job fails, it won't cause the Chrome and Edge job to fail as well. They will continue to run in parallel. Otherwise, it looks exactly the same. We're checking out the code. We're setting up Node.js. We're installing our dependencies. We're running the test. And then we're uploading the artifact. So we can click on Actions. The only difference here is actually easier. We click on the parallel jobs. When we run workflow, we don't have to choose something from a drop-down because all 3 are being used. There's not a question. Again, it's just be lazy, wait 30 seconds. You'll see the job pop up. And then again, it's about another minute and 30 seconds for it to complete. We'll just hang out when we see the 0 of 3 jobs turn to 3 or 3. Maybe we'll dig a little deeper. Okay, so that just wrapped up. There's the 3 jobs completed. If we go into them, you can see that indeed there's if we look at the tests, there's all the tests that ran. And we can see that there's green checks along the side. They would be red ultimately if one of the Selenium tests had failed. If we go back to the summary page, the artifacts themselves, I don't know, let's download the Chrome examples this time. They're all in DuckDuckGo, so they pretty much look the same. But if we open, say, I don't know, we'll look at code with Feeser this time. All right, I believe it. Must be a Chrome browser with code with Feeser results in there. Well, there you have it, gang. There isn't too much else to testing with Selenium. If you're not into JavaScript, you can power these tests with Python. Again, make the tests whatever you want to. If you like this code, hit star up here and then hit fork, make your own copy of it. If you learned something in this video, hit like on the video, hit subscribe so I can see you in the next episode of Code with Feeser.